Hey guys, Woods Farm here, just back out working on the Kubelwagen. I believe this is part 50, so this has been a pretty long video series. I suspect it's probably going to be another 10 or 15 parts before I wrap it up, but we're getting very close. Most of the body work is done. As you can see, that's the lid for the engine compartment. I just have to finish the vent. I'm gonna have to experiment and probably I've come up with a couple ideas of how to do this vent, so I'm gonna try something. If it looks okay, I'm gonna go with it. If not, I'll revisit it. That's what I came up with for the vent. Kind of see I kind of bent the louvers. This is another idea I have for bending them differently, but this looks a little rough because I kind of just really drilled the holes and cut the metal really fast, so hopefully the other one looks a little cleaner, but that's the idea. So I'm going to do the entire vent, and hopefully, again, like I said, if it looks okay, I'm going to go with it. If not, I'll go back to the drawing board. I got the sheet metal cut for the hood. I went ahead and used 18 gauge for this. I considered using 20, but I thought there's no real ribbing to give the hood any sort of rigidity, so I thought the thicker gauge might be a little bit better. Obviously there's the, I guess I'll call it the bowl or the hub, and there's four kind of a cross section of supports that come out from the hub, and that supports the spare tire. It's the spare tire mount. So that gives the hood a bit of rigidity, but still I wanted to make sure, you know, it wasn't flapping around in the wind and that the material wasn't too thin. So I went with 18 gauge. I have to make a cut here. There needs to be a circular opening in the precise right location for the filler for the fuel tank. And then I need to fabricate a cone and a cap that encapsulates that fuel filler neck. And then I have to somehow fabricate the hub. So I'm going to have to do some sheet metal work and form some kind of cones for those. I'm not looking forward to that. It's kind of a difficult thing to do without the proper tooling, but I'm going to give it a shot. Failing that, I have some kind of ideas for a hack and different ways to kind of basically get the look, but maybe not the actual precise copying of the fabrication that they used. But basically, I mean, the hub, my focus is going all crazy here. My hub, it basically just has to hold the spare tire securely, and it really 99.9% of the time it's hidden. So I've thought about that. I don't necessarily need to go crazy making it a perfect replica. I mean, there are some historical photos of Kubels driving around without the spare tire and you can see the hub, but it's rare. So I think I can get away with that. If anything, the filler neck needs to be look better. So I'll probably spend a little more time working on that. So that's my idea for a hack. That's a wash basin. I had this one actually laying around. Picked it up at Valley Village for $6, and I just tested it. It fits inside a 15-inch Volkswagen rim, so it's going to be fine for 16. It's a kind of a snug fit for the 15, but it fits. So part of the reason it's aluminum, right? So I can't actually weld together. Now I could rivet it in place, and maybe tie in some sort of bracket underneath it out of metal that's kind of tied into the framework, and then have the X pattern come out from it. If I did that, painted it up, you'd probably do pretty good. I'm going to look into buying one of these. I've looked on Amazon. You can get galvanized steel ones, might be a little easier to work with, but you know, you're looking at 35, 40 bucks. So yeah, I don't know. Ideas for the little X's on a Kubel, they slope down. So they start higher up on the hub and then they come down on an angle as they get further out, and they stop kind of in this area. So one idea I have, you know, obviously I can try to make them, bend them out of sheet metal. Again, a little tricky because I don't really have the proper tooling to do it. However, I might take some square stock, and I have some very thin square tubing, and I might be able to modify that somehow to kind of work. So we'll see. Funny enough, my wife found this novelty license plate on our road a couple days ago. Anyways, just looking at the details for the hatch, one of the things I'm doing is, there's what it looks like when it comes up. But I don't know if you can see that. I talked about it. That's a rolled edge that I did. I did it by hand, but it makes a nice kind of finished edge along the lip and along the edge, because these are kind of, guys are gonna be grabbing onto this and as they open and close it. So I didn't want, you can see it there, kind of how it's rolled over. I didn't want a sharp edge there. So I went ahead and obviously I did the same thing. The edges here on the engine compartment lid, they're all rolled as well. That way, again, when you're lifting it up and you're working around it, you don't like slice yourself up. Because when you're working with this, you know, 18 and 20 gauge, you can't really, it's really tricky to kind of sand, to kind of finish it off so it's not sharp. I mean, you can get it there, but I mean, it's always going to be a little risky. So most of the other edges of sheet metal are folded over or finished in some way, but I just went ahead. I made a little, there's the seat. Now I went ahead and just kind of eyeballed it. Ends up it's probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches too low, I think, still. So I'm going to have to make another one. I ordered some materials to make the two mounts for the seats. So that was just write that off as the learning curve, you know. Now that I know that one's too short, I know where I need to add material. So easy enough to redo those. I talked about this in a video, a couple videos back there, how the steering wheel had too much play in it. And just at the local farm supply store, Tractor Supply, I found one of these bearings, and it fits over the steering wheel shaft, and it kind of has a little hub, and it fits right into the column. It's almost perfect. I mean, it's kind of exposed. I was going to make a bracket to go around it, but I mean, it really... There's still a little bit of jiggle there, but that's just because this bolt here is falling out. But it's like significantly better now, so that's a good thing. So in the last video, I talked about these tires and the issue with the rubbing, and at that time I only had one tire mounted, and I had it on that hub, and it was rubbing. I went ahead and got the rest of the tires mounted. And strangely enough, this tire is not rubbing. And I started looking at things, and I realized I had the beam and all of the steering components completely apart, and these wheels are not aligned, and that one is out. So much you can see it by eye. So I'm crossing my fingers that when I work on the alignment, it's actually going to improve things, considering that one on this side, on the driver's side, is not rubbing. Now, it could go the other way, and you know, it could get worse. I don't know. So I'm crossing my fingers. I recently seen on Facebook or some sort of forum, I seen a Kubelwagen replica, or might not have been a replica, it could have been a restored one, but it had these tires on it. So I don't know. I'm crossing my fingers that the clearance isn't going to be as big of a deal as I thought originally. As for paint, I'm getting close. You know, I still got to get piano hinges and deal with attaching the engine lid and the trunk hatch. I got to build the doors. I think the doors are going to be pretty easy. I have enough 20 gauge to do 2 doors. You know, just finishing up this last bit of body work, and then there's some finishing stuff that needs to get done, some door trim, things like that, but getting close. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to go ahead with the mid to late war Dunkelgelb. I'm probably not pronouncing that right. Which is kind of like a tan green, kind of yellowy tinge. It's a very strange color. I've been researching it like crazy, trying to figure out the exact shade, which is like next to impossible. But I'm going to try to replicate that paint as closely as I can. Hopefully, I can go to an automotive paint supply place and get them to paint sample it. I actually ordered some model paint off Amazon that I'm going to do some test painting with on some metal, and hopefully, if I like the shade, I'm going to use that as the paint sample to get some paint mixed up. Here's another thing I'm going to need to sort out before paint, obviously, because these get welded directly to the frame, but the tow hooks front and back, these are just some patterns I have. Kind of scratching my head about making these. I have some 5/8 plate, and I'm going to attempt to plasma cut them out of 5/8 plate and then grind them into the right shape. My plasma cutter is pretty shitty, so I'm not confident that's going to work. But aside from that, the other option is to get a pattern made in a computer drafting program and go into the big city, you know, and find a fabricating place and have them laser cut them. So we'll see. I mean, the other option is ordering them out of Czechoslovakia. I feel like laser cutting them or ordering them from overseas would probably be roughly the same price, but I have to look into the laser cutting. So I got a lot of administrative stuff to do. I have to figure out the paint. I got to figure out, you know, whether or not I'm going to order these or have them laser cut. So I got a lot of this stuff to deal with in the next little while. Okay guys, well I'm just going to wrap that up. I don't know how long this video is, but kind of more of a little update video. Just give you an idea of where I'm at and some of the ideas I have to deal with some of the problems, and you know, where I'm going with things. As always, you know, like and subscribe if you want to see more of these videos. You know, if you're new to the channel, go back and check out some of the old videos. It's pretty wild to look back at, you know, like day one, what this chassis actually looked like, and it talks about how at the time I was going to use the 181 thing and I was going to kind of make it look like a Kubelwagen, and then somewhere along the lines that turned into fabricating from scratch, and it kind of follows the whole thing. So go back and check that out if you're new to the channel. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. Anyways, thanks for watching.